Welcome to the special edition of the Military Wire Vision 2020 Speaker Series. This is where we interview some of America's most elite men and women who have served this country, and we share their stories of overcoming in hopes that you guys, our listeners, will be able to gain a bit of insight on how you can maybe apply what they've gone through to your own personal life and really work to achieve your own best year ever. So our guests today are Vietnam veteran, world-renowned artist, and what they call the Civilian Medal of Honor recipient, Michael Regan, and attorney and author of the book, A Saint's Letter from the Depths of Hell, Ralph Vincent Morales. Gentlemen, welcome to the show.
Thank you. Great to be here. Thank you, Mike.
The book.
Yeah. It is a great book. So, gentlemen, Vietnam, we're here to talk about Vietnam, America's unpopular war. It was America's longest standing war, as you both know, before the War on Terror, and it claimed more than 55,000 men and women's lives here in America that served over there in Vietnam, and certainly probably countless more when they came home, just because of the struggles that were associated with Vietnam. It was not a ticker tape parade, as you will probably attest to, Michael, when you and your brothers came home. Between people being spit on or called baby killers, and many of that generation hiding their service to their country. It was not a pretty time in America for us, and yet Vietnam changed America. And that's what we're going to focus on today, is how it changed America, not just for the negative, but certainly for the positive, because there were some amazing friendships that came out of that. Some of our most successful companies today are run by Vietnam veterans. And you two are a testament to friendships that can be developed because of that war. And I really want to get into your stories, because what I want our audience to realize today is, even though there's chaos and chaotic time and uncertainty, and some people have even said maybe we're reliving the 60s, that there are some pretty amazing stuff that comes out of this. And so, gentlemen, that's what I want to focus on today. And Ralph, you've got an amazing book, and I want to dive into that. So, Michael, I want to start with you, though. You've got a medal around your neck. You are a world-renowned artist. You are known throughout the world as honoring those who have fallen through your artistic abilities. But you didn't start there. So why don't you tell us really how it all started for you?
Well, I graduated from high school in 65 and 1965.
Yeah.
And in 1966, I was actually at a friend of mine's funeral, a Marine, a guy named Bill Denhoff, who died in Vietnam. He'd only been there a few days when he died. And I was so angry, and I was a young kid, four of us, that I basically decided to join the Marine Corps and go to Vietnam. My plan was to avenge my friend's death. Well, of course, as we got trained and as we arrived in Vietnam, that foolishness quickly exited, and the reality of where we were entered. And other than just being very hot, it was also being very dangerous. That was in 1967. I arrived in Vietnam. And I was sent directly to the DMZ, which is the furthest north fire base in the country. And that's where I spent 1967 and 1968. It's also the place that changed my life, except it took me about 47 years to actually realize how much.
Walk us through that. What do you mean by that?
I was with Kilo 3-4. We were all very close. You know, the units you were with, you were very close to. And sadly, where I was at, you died off pretty quick. And where you were sometimes frightened to actually create friendships, you couldn't help it. You know, it was like, if you're alive today, I'll pray you're alive tomorrow and we'll be friends, instead of being frightened of losing every day, which is what basically happened. But to cut to the quick about what's going on here, a few weeks before I was supposed to come home from I came home from Vietnam. We were moved off the DMZ to a place called Cam Lo Regional Headquarters, which was not so far from the DMZ that the big rockets from the north still couldn't get to us, but it was off the line, so to speak, depending on where we were at. We were still surrounded by the enemy, but it was a little quieter. At least that's what we were told. And on March 28th, 1968, that was the day that I was moved. My unit was moved. That morning, the units in my group went on patrol. My unit, because we were shorthanded and exhausted and hungry and everything else you could think of, beaten up pretty good. We were left back in the perimeter as guard. And the Vietnamese decided that we were going to be attacked. And so they started out with their rockets and their mortars and everything else they had that exploded and killed people. And they just kept bombarding us. And one of the things that we knew real fast was the word incoming. Everybody's heard that word.
Yeah.
And we were told basically, if somebody screams incoming, you don't look around, you just jump in a hole and then pray. And that's what we did. Rockets were coming in from everywhere. And what happened is the Vietnamese would pin you in your hole and they'd sneak in underneath their own attack. And then before you could get out of your hole, they'd hope to be on top of you. And of course, you'd be dead if that happened. Mm. And in this case, we knew that. We had been around the whole time. You know, we knew what was going on. So our goal was to get out of the hole as fast as we could, guessing at when the rockets would actually stop and hope we weren't guessing incorrectly. Mm. That's what happened. We got out of our holes preparing to be overrun. There wasn't very many of us there. Everybody was out. But fortunately, all those people being out on patrol prevented the Vietnamese from overrunning us right away. And so we were able to get to our wounded. Two of my friends, a number of Marines died that day, but two of my friends, Peter Armstrong, and Vincent Santinello, we lost that day. First person I got to actually was Petter, but he had died instantly from a mortar round injury. And the second one I saw Vinny, and Vinny was still alive, and I yelled for my corpsman, and we all ran to Vinny, trying to keep Vinny alive. He was our mailman, but our saint. He actually brought us the mail and everything else that was important to us. Mm. And I grabbed him up and I yelled corpsman, and if you read the book, you'll see the whole story. But Doc Malazzo, Doc Nunn, they're both watching today. I love you guys. Came over and they worked their butts off trying to keep Vinny alive. And my whole goal was to make sure Vinny, because he was alive when I got to him, knew he wasn't alone, knew that the people who loved him were there with him. We didn't know he was going to die. All we knew, there was a lot of blood and a lot of injuries, a lot of shrapnel, and we didn't know. We were young still. But I had my arms around him, and those guys were working their tails off, and you know, we were all scared, and we knew the enemy was going to be coming, and we didn't know if more rounds were coming. It was like hectic, and it was really confusing. And finally, Vinny looked up at me, he looked me right in the face, and he said, "Mike," he says, I just want to go home," as a little kid would. And he closed his eyes and went home to God. That's the face I see every day. That's the face you're all looking at right behind me right now. Vincent Santinello. That's what the book's about, that Ralph's going to tell you about. But it changed my life. Because like I said, when I came home from Vietnam, I was one of those people who was spit on and yelled at and persecuted. And, you know, it's not that I have this chip on my shoulder for it, but I do, okay? Yeah. But I learned to live with it. Until about 2004, when NBC did a story on my professional portraits that I was doing for charity around the world. And one thing led to another, and I had a woman call me and ask me to draw her husband. I did. Turned out he was a corpsman in Vietnam, or in Iraq, died in 2003. Began my whole project. But when she requested that I do this portrait, it was an instant answer, yes, I would. Because corpsmen are the bravest people I know, and they are. Yep. Yeah, that was in late 2003. And right now I'm working on portrait 6,950. And I've been doing this every day for the last 17 years. But the reason I've been doing it is because of those last words from Vincent Santinello. My plan is to bring home as many people as I can in a spiritual way, because I can't bring somebody back to life. And that's what we've been doing. And the families that I don't know have responded that way. And in 2014, we found Vinny's family, and I was able to bring Ralph out here to Seattle. And we were actually able to present Vinny's portrait to Ralph. And the last thing I said at that presentation function was I said, you know, this portrait is my response to Vinny's last request. This begins his trip home. Mm. I love Ralph Morales, that man you see sitting there. He and I, the minute we knew, the second we met, we knew we were supposed to meet. And this whole project that I'm working on, okay, is directly attributed to Vincent Santinella sitting on my shoulder, standing next to a fallen hero in heaven, telling me what I have to do for that person's family. And I do it every day.
Wow.
That's my story. And I'm sticking to it.
Michael, thank you for sharing that. That's so powerful. And you know, for those who don't know, you know, the average age of somebody who was serving in Vietnam was 19. You all were young. And to think that not only friendships were built through that, but you guys responded to each other in a loving way in the middle of chaos and war, which is never pretty and nobody wants it. And I love that you have a friendship with Ralph. And Ralph, I want to get to your story because you and Michael have such an amazing relationship today. And it was your uncle who served in Vietnam,
Yeah.
if I'm not mistaken. And there's a common bond between you and Michael now. What inspired you to dig into your uncle's story?
Well, back in 2002, my uncle's oldest sister, Lily, my mother, she passed away very suddenly. And my siblings and I were going through her belongings after we had buried her, and we found a box. And inside the box were dozens of letters that I'd never seen before. So I began pouring through these letters, and I realized they were letters from my uncle Vinny to my mom from his time in Vietnam. And the truly sad part of this is I was very close to my mother, and yet she never shared these letters with me. I never knew the depth of the relationship that she shared with her brother, my uncle Vinny. I grew up in the same house in Jamaica, Queens, in New York, where Vinny grew up. And Vinny was sort of a myth in that house. My grandparents, who lived downstairs from me, they rarely spoke about him. There were pictures of him around the house that I can recall, but my mom very rarely spoke about him. So as a young kid, I used to think of Vinny as just this old guy that died in war. You know, I'm going to turn 51 on July 10th. I always thought of him as an old guy, like a 50-year-old guy, you know, who served. Now it's very young, mind you, but who served in war. And so Vinny was always a myth. And in reading these letters, I came to the realization that he was a kid. He was 19 years old when he was killed. When he arrived in Vietnam, he was 18. He turned 19 on September 20th of 1967. And he was a kid writing to his kid sister, who was 20 and 21 at the time. And the letters really impressed upon me who Vinny was. I began to develop a respect and an appreciation for this kid who took it upon himself to serve our country with heroes like Michael, who's here today, and John Nunn, and Tony Milazzo, and Daniel King, John Chang, all these individuals that served at the same time that Vinny served in that late 1967 to early 1968 timeframe. So in reading these letters, I came to a few realizations. One, my mother and Vinny were absolute best friends. If you read these letters, and a lot of those letters are in the book, you realize they weren't just your typical brother and sister. Yeah, they fought with each other, and yeah, they would punch each other every now and then. But more importantly, there was a fierce love and loyalty. And I know Michael can attest to this. When you're a Marine, from what I've learned, and I never served, I never had the privilege of serving, but what I have learned is that there's such a strong bond of love and loyalty between Marines. They would do anything for each other, including die for each other. And my mom and her brother had that same sense of loyalty and just great love between them. And while it touched my heart, it made me very happy to read that. It also hurt me because I realized my mom never shared that. So she kept that pain inside of her heart for, at that time, 33 years, never opened up about it, never told us, and I'm the oldest of four, never told any of us the depth of the relationship that she had with Vinny. So in reading those letters, I was inspired. I wanted to write a book based on these letters, but I very quickly came to the realization that you can't write a book about something you know nothing about. And I knew nothing about my uncle. So I began the process of posting everywhere online I could, trying to find people that could share with me stories about my uncle so that the book would have some sense of realness to it, some sense of authenticity. Because as much as I have come to love Vinny, and obviously as much as I loved and continue to love my mother, I did not want to do a disservice to them by just writing something willy-nilly. It had to have some substance. It had to have a foundation to it. So for the better part of 10 years, I was reaching out to people. I met a few people here and there, but no one could really share with me much of substance of my uncle until, of course, I met the gentleman that's on the screen here today, Mr. Regan. And he opened my eyes, opened my heart to so much more than I thought I knew about Vinny, even about my own mother, about my own appreciation. And the book, after meeting Michael, the book took on a life of its own because I realized it was a much bigger story than just Vinny and Lily, even though they're obviously the main parts of the book. The book took on a true meaning of love and respect for men and women like Michael that have served, for those that came back and suffered greatly, like you alluded to earlier, for those that didn't come back. And then the book took on an even bigger meaning because I learned of the importance of Gold Star families. And in meeting Michael and going out to Seattle, where he was at the time, Easter weekend of 2014, Michael was celebrating the 10th anniversary of the Fallen Heroes Project. And there were hundreds of families there. And I realized they had no closure. They had a loved one literally ripped away from them. Now, granted, everyone says it's what they signed up for. I get it. But I don't think anyone is truly ready to say goodbye to someone as young as Vinny was, and as young as so many men and women have been in serving our country. So the book began to reflect that appreciation and really to open up the wound of the Gold Star family and have people understand what they go through. Because my grandparents obviously were Gold Star members, Gold Star family members. My mom and her younger brother, Gold Star members. And I didn't have a true appreciation for who they were, what they mean to the fabric of this country, until I had the privilege of meeting Michael and John Nunn and Tony Milazzo, like I said, Daniel King, John Chang, these men that served and made it back, but have such profound love and appreciation, as you can hear from Mike's words, for those that didn't come back.
Yeah, this book, and for those who don't know about Ralph's book, it's a Saint's Letters from the Depths of Hell. This is, yeah, Michael's holding it up too, if you guys can see that. It's a pretty powerful book. And Ralph, I just got to say that there's so much in here that people can learn from. And I don't want to bore people with reading, but gosh, just some of this stuff, I found myself actually tearing up. And I'm starting to tear up now. Sorry about that. But I'll read this because there's something I want to unpack with you, Michael, which I think, you're a local legend in the Edmonds area. For people that don't know, Michael lives in the Edmonds, Washington area. And Michael and I run into each other on the street occasionally. He's never as dressed up as he is right now. I just want to put that out for everybody. Right now, he looks super sharp. It's never how I see him. But there's on page 60 of your book, it says, "Mama, could you even send me some homemade cookies? As soon as I get them, they're eaten up in 10 minutes. And gosh, I remember when I was deployed, getting those homemade packages were just like the lifeblood. But then you go into, and that was a letter from Vinny, September 1st, 1967, to your mom, to Lily. And it goes into, hey, Red, how the hell can you sit there and draw so much shit with all the damn bugs crawling around you? Now, this is a family show, and I broke my own rules. So for those of you that are like, what the heck just happened? Well, these are real letters, and these are real experiences. And, life isn't always pretty, and it's not always PC. But, Michael, how did you get the nickname Red?
I have red hair.
Well, I see that. So
when I got out of high school, there's a picture of me in Vietnam at Cam Lo, actually, in a Jeep, where I have flowing red hair and, no glasses. Of course, I couldn't see, but anyway, it didn't matter. But I had red hair and blue-green eyes. I was a good-looking dude, man. So Red became my nickname, and it carried. In fact, it still carries. The guys I was in Vietnam with, they all came to town in 2008 for a fundraiser for my project.
Yeah.
And I'm at the airport at 11:30 at night one night, and I'm going, I don't know. I don't even know really who I'm looking for. They wouldn't tell me. And all of a sudden, I heard these group of guys say, "Hey, Red!" And I'm thinking, that's me. And I turn around, and there's all of my guys that I was with. So I don't even know if they know my name is Mike. It's Red Regan, like Red Ryder, I guess. But that's how I got the nickname Red, and it stuck with me the entire time I was in Vietnam. And to this day, I'm proud to say it's because of my red hair.
Gosh, it's so great. It's interesting how we all get our call signs or our nicknames, etc. And thank you for sharing that because Michael, I don't see the ounce of red anymore. But that's
There's
because,
barely hair, let alone red.
yeah, that's because you've got wisdom. Um, Ralph, what do you hope that people gain from reading your book? I mean, it's such a great book. It's a testament to the period. It's a testament to love, to friendship. But what do you really hope that people gain from your book?
Well, obviously, I think first and foremost, I want people to gain an appreciation for the depth of the love that Vinny, my uncle, had for his sister, my mother. That is obviously what I'd like to have come out the most. But more importantly, from a broader perspective, I want people to gain the appreciation that I gained in meeting Michael and really in writing this book. The book was almost a cathartic experience for me because I felt when I started writing the book, I had no idea who Vinny was. By the time I finished writing the book, Vinny was like my best friend. And I truly mean that. I want people to really gain an appreciation for all of the Uncle Vinnies out there, whether it was in Vietnam, World War II, the Korean War, World War I, or more recently, the wars in Afghanistan and Iraq. I want people to gain an appreciation for all of the Uncle Vinnies that didn't make it back home. All the men and women that so valiantly gave their lives in service to the country. It's something, again, as someone who never served, I can't tell you how truly honored I am to even be able to say the names of men like Mike Regan and yourself who served, because I didn't serve. I don't know what that experience is like. I have learned how traumatic it is. I have learned in meeting Michael and John Nunn and Tony Milazzo that some of these gentlemen still suffer from Vietnam 50 plus years later. They still feel the pain and the anguish 50 years later. That to me is something that is much bigger than this book. I really hope that people, when they read this book, they come to love Vinny, because many people have an Uncle Vinny or an Aunt Vincenta. You know, many people have a relative that did not make it back home from service to our country. I want them to know that their loved one is never forgotten. And this book is a testament to Vinny that he will never be forgotten. Personally, my mom and my family, she will never be forgotten. But more importantly, from a broader perspective, for all of the Gold Star moms and dads, grandmas, grandpas, aunts, uncles, brothers and sisters, please know this book is a tribute to all of you and to your loved one who didn't make it back. And that's really what I hope this book means to people at the end of the day.
Yeah,
Can I say something? Can I say something here?
absolutely, Michael. Yeah.
I didn't make a promise to Vincent when he was dying that we wouldn't let him die because I didn't know. But I do remember the look he gave me, and he put a little bit of him inside me when he died. What we've done is, in the last 52 years, we've kept Vincent Santinello alive in the hearts of many people who weren't even alive when Vinny died, and in the life that's on their walls for their fallen heroes. They all know, there's a lot of people listening to this program this morning, and they all know I love them, Gold Stars. They know one thing for sure, who Vincent Santinello is. I've said this to Ralph before, and it's kind of a dichotomy if you think about it. If Vinny had come home from Vietnam alive, which would have been wonderful, of course, okay, we would not know what would have happened to all of the other things that has happened since he died in Vietnam. But what has happened is I've worked with almost 7,000 families bringing the love they lost home in a spiritual way. And the whatever Vinny gave me that day is why I'm doing that. It was Vincent, the loss of Vincent Santinello, the loss of our friends, Peter Armstrong, loss of Bill Denhoff, other people that I've lost, Bruce, Maynard, a number of them, as you know, we've talked many times, Mike, about that. You've seen me at the plaza, at the pavers.
Yeah.
The loss of those people, okay, that has made me dedicate the last 17 years of my life, not 5 days a week, not 40 hours a week, 7 days a week, at least 5 to 7 hours per drawing, 7,000 times, because of a moment on March 28th, 1968, where Vinny Santinello looked at me and says, Mike, I just want to go home. I'll never forget that. I can, you know, Ralph and I had an incredible moment. I just want to real quickly say to you, when Ralph and I first met, before the big event where we were going to present we had Marines and Blues, we had all kinds of active duty, we had all kinds of good stuff going. The night before, it was Good Friday. Ralph and I are sitting in my studio at my drawing table. Ralph's sitting on the floor and I'm sitting up in the chair, and we're talking about Vinny, we're talking about the project. And Ralph asked me a question. After I explained what I just explained to you, he said, so Vinny didn't die for no reason. And
Yeah.
I said, there's a whole bunch of families out there who believe Vinny died for a very important reason. Death is never something anybody wants. But what has happened here is something incredibly special. The book addresses it if you read the book, okay? Something special happened with Vincent's death. And it's happening every day. Vinny, that guy right there, is still alive today, as I am. Vinny will live as long as I do. And then maybe as long as Ralph does.
Yeah.
That's part of this incredible story that you're talking about, Mike, okay? That's the part of the story you know about, okay? Anyway, thanks for letting me say that.
No, it's so important. And I know, you know, and I love that you shared that, Michael, because, you know, Vinny in many ways is still alive and he's touching the lives of many through you. And I love that piece, and that it's so powerful. And you came back home in the physical sense, and, you know, many who experience war come back with other injuries, mental, physical, etc. What were some of the things, how did you cope with some of the experiences when you came home? And to this day, did you just dive into your art and that's very therapeutic? Or what are some things that you learned from Vietnam that others can apply in their lives today?
The day I got home from Vietnam and landed at Travis Air Force Base, they took my uniform away from me and gave me civilian clothes. And that's the first time I'd heard that the country, or at least the loudest voices in the country, didn't want me to come home from Vietnam. And at San Francisco Airport and Seattle International Airport, SeaTac, I saw that. At 7:30 in the morning that day, my friend Maynard Tapp, who's now in heaven with Vinny and everybody else, came to my door and he just put his arms around me. He says, thanks for coming home. And he went to work. I walked over to the University District for where I lived. I lived down in Seattle by the U District, and I walked over as 35,000 anti-war protesting people. I'm trying to keep this nice. People stormed the freeway, okay, and it scared me. And I went home and hid. And I think for the longest time I hid, and I drank for 5 years. I didn't get in trouble. I didn't hurt people. I didn't break laws, but I wasn't focused. I was trying to survive. And then some people, fortunately for me, put their arms around me and said, okay, you're worth saving, and we're going to make sure that you don't screw up anymore. I went to art school, got a job at the school district through a retired Marine who I'd done some work for, and he said, you want a job? And they taught me how to do computers. Then the UW hired me for 30 years to be their artist, which I loved. It was the greatest job in the world. And that transitioned into this, okay? Yeah. I think this project brought me into the VFW, because in 2005, I got asked by Edmonds if I would join the VFW in the American Legion. And I had no intention of joining anything. You know, my wartime was over. This thing I'm wearing is very important to me, okay? This would have never happened.
Explain to people what that is around your neck. I know people that joined us early got to hear it, but those that joined us on time did not. What is that hanging around your neck?
People are nominated, and I didn't even know this, from around the country to the Medal of Honor Society. The Medal of Honor Society in Arlington is made up just of Medal of Honor recipients. And they accept nominations every year for a Medal of Honor recipient of a medal like this, okay? And what happens is they give all of the nominations to a large group of Medal of Honor recipients. They narrow down all the recipients, or all of the nominees, down to 20 finalists. That 20 finalists is then given to another group of Medal of Honor recipients, and they choose the medal honoree to receive a medal. This is called the Citizen Service Before Self Honors, or the Civilian Medal of Honor. And at Arlington Cemetery, like I said before, Ralph was there with me. I loved having him there with me. In fact, he saw the medal before I did.
Mm.
This was pinned on me in front of Medal of Honor recipients by 2 Medal of Honor recipients from Vietnam. And when they put it around my neck, I just held it.
Mm.
Okay, because I didn't deserve this. I just draw pictures. And one of the Medal of Honor recipients looked at me and he says, Mike, he says, you have no idea what you're doing for the families. We do, because we know them.
Yeah.
So what I did was I just started focusing. I did a lot of charity artwork. That's how this all started when Sharice Johnson, the very first drawing I did, her husband was the corpsman I talked about earlier, Michael Johnson. And I just focused my whole life on trying to honor Vinny.
Mm.
And all these families. You know, it's interesting. I've done almost 7,000 drawings, but that's 7,000 families.
Yeah.
I've spoken all over the world. Okay. I've been the USAA Memorial Day speaker, and this year was another one where I spoke to 35,000 people live. Okay. I'm getting to tell these people that I'm never going to forget them. And I love them to death. I love them, and they all know it. I'm walking now 5.5 miles every day. You see me, Mike.
I do.
Carrying the American flag.
Yep.
Every day. Okay? A little nervous about it, but no one's going to scare me out of doing it.
Yeah.
Yesterday, somebody stopped me and asked me why I'm doing that. And I said, because I've promised a whole bunch of Gold Star families around this world that I'll never forget their loss, and I'll make sure nobody else ever forgets their loss. This flag represents what I fought for, what you fought for, and what our friends died for.
Yeah.
That's why I carry it. So I get to talk about these people's children, like Vinny, who are gone in a sense physically, but not in the hearts of all these people. My job, okay, is to make sure I do whatever Vinny needs me to do to bring home these people to their families. I am right now working on Sergeant Craig Johnson. Do you know who that is?
I do not.
He's a Tulsa police officer who died yesterday in the line of duty. I'm bringing Craig home to his family every day because of those words Vinny gave me. Because of the moment Ralph Morales and I shared in my studio when I realized that this was the right thing for me to be doing. When I saw Ralph Morales, a guy I had never met before, and I saw the love in his eyes that he was missing his uncle so badly, and then I saw this connection he and I had, it was not me connecting with Ralph. It was Vincent in my studio where he lives, connecting with Ralph. And Ralph knows that because we talk about it. What I've done is I've just focused away from the hate, focused towards the love, not spent a lot of time on the confusion, because what I know for sure is that if you call me and ask me to do your portrait of your fallen hero, you'll know when you receive it that every bit of love I have in my heart, every bit of respect I have for your loss is going to be reflected whatever you receive. And that's what I hear from other families. Let me finish one last thing. I had a Marine dad, Vietnam vet, call me. He had me draw his son who died in Iraq a year earlier. And he said, you know what you're getting out of doing all this work? And I said, nothing, I do it all for free. And we went back and forth because he was doing this on purpose to make sure I was paying attention. And I said, I do this for free. And he said, so are you pissed off enough yet? Oh, sorry. Are you mad enough yet? I said, yes.
Hey, listen, Michael, it's everything's, go ahead, just speak freely.
So he said to me, you're lucky I'm a Marine. I mean, I'm not using the other word, but anyway, he said to me, he says, Mike, you know what you're getting out of this? And I said, what? He said, your soul is getting to come home from Vietnam. God has given you a job, and your reward is now you're complete. Because when I came home from Vietnam, Mike, my soul was not in me.
Yeah.
I was whole, but the inside part where love and compassion and fear and all those things are utilized, that piece was gone. And when that guy told me that, it was like instantly I got this chill down my back, and I realized that with that very first drawing of Michael Johnson, Corpsman Michael Johnson, Iraq 2003, took him. He gave me my soul back.
Yeah.
And so I can't possibly, you know, I've been up all night. If I look a little tired, I'm sorry. I have been up all night working on this policeman's picture because I need to get it to his family, and I will finish it today. It'll go in the mail tomorrow.
Yeah.
That's what I do every day.
It's so beautiful. I mean, you talk about the hole in the soul, and so many who do come home do experience that hole in the soul piece where something's been missing, and they go on this new journey for mission, for purpose, for identity. And what I love about your story, Michael, is that you found it, and your dedication to bringing other people home, and really in some ways bringing healing and restoration back to families who have
Ralph
lost.
is named after Vincent, you know.
Yeah.
I hope everybody understands that. Look at that smile on his face. It's Ralph Vincent Morales.
Yeah.
That guy carries Vincent in his heart from before he could talk. He represents Vincent.
Yeah. Yeah. Ralph,
Incredible.
you and Michael have such a special relationship. What can people learn from the relationship that you guys share?
Well, I think Mike really encapsulated everything that we're talking about here. You know, my uncle's nickname was Saint. His last name was Santinello, but he went by Saint in Vietnam. And my mom would actually write letters to him, and he would refer to himself as Saint. And I think that there's some really true symmetry between his nickname, Saint, which is where the title came from, and what Michael does. You know, Michael was inspired by a saint to bring love and compassion and dignity to those men and women, those families that lost their loved ones. So the relationship that I have with Mike is really, it encapsulates all that's good about this country, all that's good about what America stands for. Our veterans, living and deceased, are the fabric of our country. They literally put our country on their backs and served all over the world. Obviously, we've got many that never came back home that made the ultimate sacrifice. And so the relationship that I have with Mike that I think really does or should inspire those that are watching this today is that people will go to great lengths to show respect, love, and appreciation. Like I said, for all the Uncle Vinny's, all the saints out there that didn't make it back home. But there is some really, a very cool symmetry in the fact that a saint has inspired a wonderful man who many of whom consider a saint walking on the earth, and Mike, and I'm sure he would deny that and he doesn't like to hear it. But a saint inspired a man like Mike to really sacrifice many years of his life to do what he does and to try in his own special way to let those Gold Star families know around our country, your loved one not only is not forgotten, he is loved, she is loved, he is respected, she is respected, and she is never forgotten. Her sacrifice, his sacrifice will never be forgotten. And we will always love and respect you as a Gold Star family and know that you are part of our family, the American family. And that's something I think that transcends everything Mike does. It transcends everything my book is about. It's really a true love and a true respect for those men and women that served and did not come home, those that served and came home and like Mike suffered for many years, and for those that came home and moved on and have established themselves. This is all about them.
I love
By
that.
the way, chapter 17 in the
Yeah.
book is the day Vinny dies. I'm sure you were going to bring that up, but I wanted to make sure everybody sees that. When I read that chapter, I didn't get halfway through before I was crying my eyes out. Cheryl came in, my wife, and she said, "What's the matter?" And I said, "Ralph told me to read chapter 17, and I'm reading chapter 17. And it was me reliving that day. Now, it's a day I live every day, but it's like all of a sudden I'm seeing what's really going on again, and I'm feeling what's really going on again. And if you read chapter 17 and you want to find out why Mike Regan does his pictures, read chapter 17. And by the time you're done with that, you know exactly why I'm drawing these pictures.
Yeah, chapter 17 and then followed by chapter 18, two very powerful chapters of this book. The entire book is excellent. And there is a picture of Vinny right before chapter 17. I don't know if people can see that, but
Yep.
there he is. And, you know, it's such a great book. I want people to be able to see this. You know, it's a saint's letters from the depths of hell, written by Ralph, Vincent Morales. Ralph, how do people get your book?
It's available online at Amazon.com, BarnesandNobles.com. Read a Million, or Read a Million is another website, but Amazon and Barnes and Nobles are the best places to get it. Just search the title of Saints Letters from the Depths of Hell. It'll pop right up. And the picture on there, I just wanted to comment, that's a picture of Vinny and Lily, my uncle and my mom. That was from the summer of 1967, July of 1967. And it was the last time that they ever saw each other because he was deployed right after that. So I thought that that would be a great way to commemorate them. And in the background are his actual letters. It's a collage of many of the letters that he wrote to my mother. And I thought that it was a great way not only to honor them, but to show what the book is about. It truly was a saint's letters from the depths of hell where he was in Vietnam. And it was a great experience to write it. Like I said, it was a very cathartic experience. And hopefully people understand that it is a great tribute to two people, one of whom I never got to meet, the other of whom I love dearly, but two very important people in my life.
I love that. Well, and I want to encourage our audience to pick that book up. It's such a great book. It's Saints Letters from the Depths of Hell. It'll move you if you've ever had somebody serve in the military or even lost somebody. But you'll see the love throughout it. You'll see the relationship through it. Michael, I know that you're in it. You play a big part in this book. And Michael, you've got your own foundation, the Fallen Heroes Project. How can people reach out to you or support you as you continue to do your work, bring Vinny's spirit alive in the lives of many others?
Well, the Fallen Hero Project we are a 501c3. And if you don't know what that is, that means we're a tax deductible foundation. No one makes any money doing the work I do. The accountants, the lawyers, my dear friend, treasurer, Judy, I love her to death. These people all help me out, Linda, Terry. But at the same time, there's a lot of costs doing portraits all over the world. You know, we sent 138 portraits of all of the Polish soldiers who died in Iraq and Afghanistan framed to Warsaw. They're now hanging in a museum. And the foundation pretty much covered the initial costs of all of that. But we've sent them, I'm doing drawings in Great Britain, Canada, Germany, Poland, and the United States, because those are our allies. And as anybody who's ever served knows, your allies are your brothers and your sisters. And if they weren't there, more of us would die. So my job was to share what we're doing with them. But the Fallen Hero Portrait Project has got a website, fallenheroesproject.org, fallenheroesproject.org. That's HEROES. We accept donations. Donations, I'll be quite honest with you, Mike, donations have dropped off incredibly with all that's going on, and I totally understand it. But at the beginning of this project, I said I was going to do this work, and when my wife asked me how we were going to pay for it, because we're just regular people, I said I'm turning it over to God, and I got started before we had money anyway. Yeah. So we're going to do the work that I'm asked to do. If people want to help, if people want to feel like they're a part of this, if they want to be a part of this, my relationship with Vinny, if they want to talk to me, okay, and learn more about this, on my website, there are videos, there are letters and testimonials from the families, and every one that I've drawn that I can get out there so far are out there with their stories. We have an incredible website that was put together by by Eric Hirschberg's company in Washington, D.C., and CMI, or I'll forget it. Thinking too much. But anyway, a great company in Washington, D.C. has done all this work. And we have an incredible website with the images. We have the images established on the website, by the way, so that the families can actually go out and pull them off the website in a large format like that one behind me, free of charge. No, and great. We have these portraits being distributed to 50 and 60 and 70 people in a family. So the organization's there. We could use some help. But at the same time, at the very least, help me keep my promise to Ralph and everybody else that's a Gold Star. Never forget the sacrifice people you don't even know have made to keep you free. You know, we don't hear about it anymore, but I do. I'm still drawing 1 or 2 portraits every day. Okay? They're still dying. Sadly, some of them are dying from suicides because for whatever reason, they can't bring themselves home.
Yeah.
But I understand that. Mike, you understand that too. Okay.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because we have friends, we know. All right.
Yeah.
Just remember them. And if you see a veteran someplace, it doesn't matter. Especially, I'm just going to share this. If you see a Vietnam veteran somewhere, do this for me. Walk over to them and say, welcome home.
Yeah.
Because there's a high probability they've never heard that.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
love these people. My love for Ralph is not explainable because it's from God. It's spiritual. What I'm offering to do for the families that I've drawn, most of them I'll never meet, okay? But I feel every one of them as I do in their art. The book that Ralph wrote means a lot to me because this book isn't just about Vincent Santinello. This book is about the Fallen Hero Portrait Project and everybody who's benefited from our existence. And Ralph just got to tell the story.
Yeah.
The day Ralph and I first got in contact with each other, like he said, he hadn't found anybody. ABC had done an interview with me, and I'd heard that Vinny lived in New York somewhere, and the researchers at ABC put us together. And I said to the ABC guy when he told me he'd found Ralph, I said, could you give me his phone number so I can let him know, I talked to him? And he says, you don't have to. I gave him yours. He says, he's been looking for you for a long time. So this book is a result of a lot of years and the life of one person who's led to the life of many more. And sadly, and I mean this sadly, it will lead to the life of many more that are not dead yet.
Yeah.
But this is the story.
Yeah. Well, gentlemen, I'm just truly honored to have you both on the show. And Ralph, your book is so powerful. And again, A Saint's Letters from the Depths of Hell. For our audience, be sure you pick up this book. It is such a worthwhile book. It's a powerful book. And Ralph, you did a great job. And I know your uncle would be proud.
Thank you.
He is proud.
And
he lives here.
Yeah.
He lives here.
Yeah. And Michael, just breathing life into the spirit and hope and family of others throughout this world is a testament to the spirit of those who serve. It's a service above self and wanting to bring peace to people's lives. I think that's why many of us serve. It's not because we want to go into combat. It's because we want to keep peace and we want families to be whole.
I want to ask a favor before you end.
Yeah, you bet.
I don't want to get into a long drawn out thing about this. Every day for me is really hard.
Yeah.
When I go down, like I said, I've been up all night with the drawing. I couldn't sleep. And when I go down and I draw a beautiful young woman or a beautiful old woman or a beautiful young man or a beautiful old man, whatever gender, whatever race, whatever religion, they have died for this country.
Yeah.
I'm looking into the face of someone who's no longer with us, who died, in my belief, for me. So you've got people listening to this, and all I need is, I've already asked you never to forget, but I could ask a favor, personal favor, and that someday, just say a prayer for me. I walk 5.5 miles every day just so my heart heals a little bit so that I can break it tomorrow. And that gets really hard. And, but I don't, as I told General Jacoby one time, he asked me when this would all end. And I said to General Jacoby, and you know who he is.
Yep.
Commanding General I Corps. I said, I know the last drawing I will do will be the day before someone has to do my drawing. Because that's the drive I have in me. But the days are hard and I can use the prayers too.
Well, and I'm going to encourage everybody not only to pick up the book, Ralph, because they need to read it, and because I think it'll bring healing. But I'm going to encourage every one of our listeners not only to donate, because the cause needs to continue, because there needs to be healing through many families. But I'm going to encourage all our audience members to pray.
Thank you.
And Mike, know that I will pray for you daily, brother.
Thank you.
because the work you're doing is so worthy. And gosh, dang, you know, I only cry at Hallmark commercials, guys. I mean, the people I've had on this show, they try to get me to cry, and good job.
You know, I
Gee,
have a friend of mine, Jeff Valkill. I drew his son, who's a Green Beret, died. And Jeff actually came up from Colorado and gave me the Green Beret his son was wearing in the picture that I drew.
wow.
And it sits over my drawing table. Someday, Mike, you should come up and see that.
Yeah, 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 I will do that. Well, gentlemen, again, thank you for being on the show. We went long, but you know what? This was a story that people need to hear, and I believe there was so much healing that people would gain from this. So I want to thank you both. Again, be sure to pick up the book, A Saint's Letters from the Depths of Hell. You can get it on Amazon, Barnes & Noble.
I love you, Ralph.
Man.
Love you too, Michael. Thank you.
Yeah, Michael, your foundation and the work you're doing needs to continue. So people, please donate. Please reach out. Please donate. Please say a prayer for both Ralph and Michael. Because you both are on the front lines doing God's work, and I believe in you both, and I thank you both. And if people want to hear other amazing stories, they can visit, vision2020today.com. For those of you that are that want to share this story, that'll be on that site too when we get it from post-production, and you guys can share it, and so that we can continue to tell Vinny's story, and so that Vinny can live in the lives of many others and give them hope. So, gentlemen, thank you both for being on the show.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mike. I really appreciate it. Thank you.